This exhibit is one that we're trying to think about what it means to look more closely, more carefully at the world around us. How do we cope with so many of these growing environmental crises, catastrophes that are affecting people in inequitable ways? The 8 artists in this exhibition are really working in subtle ways, conversing with what environmental crises look like in ways that are not dramatic, are not provocative in the sense that we might often think about climate change being depicted. The exhibition really started with a work that I found by Chacon, who was commissioned by the Kronos Quartet to make a piece entitled The Journey of the Horizontal People. And what I was drawn to most was the musical score, the visualization of the sonic. He took great liberties in designing and making his own notations. One of the things that he made explicit was that he wanted at least one woman to be part of the quartet. Whichever woman was eldest would take the role of leader. It would be her that the rest of the quartet looked to for guidance. And the way that he structured the piece, it was inevitable that the musicians could go out of sync very easily. And they would need to look to the matriarch of the group, so to speak, for guidance. And so there's a particular symbol, a realignment symbol, that he has throughout the score. And that's a point at which the musicians must look to this guide and recenter and begin again. And that would happen continuously. And I love that as a metaphor for thinking about our planet, our species, our cultures. We always need those moments of realignment. And things happen in bursts. And there's great chaos and excitement and complexity, but then every once in a while, we need to pause. Around the exhibition space, there are several cairns, and these cairns appear to be rocks, but in fact, they're made of paper. They're surrounded by soil, which is gathered locally. So we have a little bit of our Denver soil in the space with us. And these cairns act as guideposts to a certain extent, but they're also a reminder of the precarity of our situation, how we are balancing upon one another. They again remind us of a future that relies on a certain amount of collective generosity to build together, to create something, to be careful enough not to knock that over, but also to know that there is potentially something misleading in the idea that what we think is rock is actually paper. Alejandra and I, as we were thinking about the positionality of Union Hall, next to Union Station, but also right next to an area of Denver that is the most polluted zip code in the US, Globeville. This area is one that I think often gets neglected. It has a history that dates back to smelting era, gold mining, heavy metals, leaching into the soil, leaching into the waterway. We wanted to highlight that proximity and think about what it meant in this very industrialized part of Denver. Many neighborhoods are immigrant populations, and that was something that spoke to her in her past as well. She ultimately landed on a mapping system, thinking about the ways that water was running through Denver, the way that highways, interstates, train tracks are these arteries, these literal arteries of our living space. She gathered materials from Globeville and crafted her own paper, worked with laser cutting devices to create this kind of very lightweight sculpture. So often we look away from those areas, we put fences up, or we attempt to separate them. But in fact, I think what we need to do more of is shine a light on those areas and say, oh, well, people are living amid this right now, and it affects all of us in this area. I love the artwork of Camila Friedman-Gerlicz. She is both a mathematician and a sculptor. What she was attempting to do, and she succeeded at, was creating something called a Werner Boy surface that has no beginning and no end. It's kind of Mobius strip in 3 dimensions. It feels like a little bit of a moon, a little bit of a star, giving us this multifaceted view of our spatial position. If you were to pick up Camila's sculpture, it's almost as light as a feather. Reminder that we have to treat our planet with a bit of tenderness and with care. I was really drawn to the work of Tania Candiani and her film, Walking the River. She's walked many rivers all around the world, and she does so thinking about the ecology of the river system, echoing back to the work of Alejandra Abad, thinking about riverways as planetary arteries, as commercial trafficking conduits. These are places where humans have really kind of imposed ourselves. How have we changed these different networks? In Tania's piece, we are kind of inundated with these saturated colors of greenery, of what is along the riverbanks, these plant species that are thriving there and are so clearly impacted by everything that we're doing and putting into the waterways. There are 2 darkened spaces in this exhibit. One is featuring the work of an artist from Austria, Herbert Pföstl. He paints so delicately these subtle landscapes. You almost wouldn't be able to describe them as such. They're minimal. They have a subtlety to their edges and to their structures. For me, what they do is they offer some solace, a place of reflection. It's almost as if you're going up to the edge of a mountain in the middle of a snowstorm and you're looking out and you can only decipher a few little bits, but you do get a sense of what is up and what is down. You feel what's below you. You do see the ground, but you can't make out much else. And there's both fear and hope simultaneously held in that. It's a reminder of the ephemerality of our world and how easily things come and go. What can one count on? Erika's work often engages with the precarity of our forests by looking at the individuality of specific species and even individual trees. Throughout the exhibit here, there are individual trees that she has hand-etched onto paper, highly realistic, but so specific to the particular trees. You know that this tree that you're looking at has grown in a particular soil, has been affected by the wind patterns of that exact space. I see her representation of trees as giving voice to individuals within non-human species, and therefore have distinct characteristics. She has human figures in her work. I really wanted those to be right next to the train track that we're on here, track number 8. And to have those people almost appear as if they're standing on the platform next to us. She is thinking about the way in which humans are intertwined with our surroundings. We have created an imprint so all-pervasive that even to remove it now creates something in turn that cannot quite be undone. I'm so honored to have the work of Diane Burko in this show. She's of course thinking about warming oceans, rising sea levels, melting glaciers, but she's doing it in a way that has a bit of a distance. We're looking at the ice caps in such a way that there's, of course, a flatness to it imposed by the canvas, but also an embedded cartography into the canvases themselves. If you look at them head on, they feel thick with paint. The textures and the variations in color are immense and feel so weighty. But then if you look at the side of the canvases, you see the way in which it's all liquid and it's all potentially melting and dripping. There's a liquidity that you're reminded of the paint itself. So to have both of those in a single piece is quite striking. We look so much to our oceans right now for the future of the planet. We are seeing so much change, whether that's plastic pollution, sound pollution, shipping increases, etc. There's a toll that's being taken, and the oceans are absorbing that for us. So I wanted to kind of look to the darkness too.